Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another Bible reading stream. Today we're going to be going over Matthew chapter 11. Pretty excited to get started in that. I'm going to go toward just chatting real quick though. I had to kind of fix the YouTube chat last time, so let me go ahead and fix that for us. There we go. So, curious though, how you guys doing today? How's it going, Squirrel? Glad to see you coming back in chat, showing up pretty quickly. Today was actually pretty good. Honestly, we went over First Kings at my church today, and we went over, I think it was the Jeroboam and Rehoboam. So basically, after King Solomon, his children pretty much were divided between Judah and North, Israel pretty much. There's a story there. Two of them actually, one of a prophet actually basically talking to the king, and how God is going to tear down their false idols and stuff after they ended up creating the golden calf for them to worship. And then the really strange story afterwards, about him meeting an unnamed prophet, disobeying God and dying for it. It's a pretty tough passage, pretty much, that our pastor was going through, and that's actually what he was kind of kind of pointing out. So it was really, really good. But I always find that one to be really interesting. And stories like that can be really tough, but I think they're mostly tough because a lot of us don't give God the proper authority I think we should. So I find it interesting. If you guys are curious, we can definitely go into that. But for now, I say we get right to Matthew 11. I'm glad to hear you're doing good, man. I keep meaning to. I need to look up Supernatural Crowley saying squirrel. I wanted to do like an impression or something. Whenever you show up, so I'm going to have to do that soon. Let's see, going back to Matthew 11. When Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in their cities. Now when John heard in prison about the deeds of the Christ, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, "Are you the one who is to come? Or shall we look for another?" And Jesus answered them, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. Lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. And the dead are raised up, and the poor have good news preached to them. And blessed is the one who is not offended by me." As they went away, Jesus began to speak to the crowds concerning John. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? What then did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft clothing? Behold, those who wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. What then did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, 'Behold, I send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way before you.'" There are a lot of verses where Jesus is claiming to be God, and a lot of people try to argue against that, but I also think it's funny too. If you really read, and you read in the context, it's written everywhere. A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. It's very consistent. All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't watched that show in a while. "Truly I say to you, among those born of women there has arisen no one greater than John the Baptist. Yet the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the heaven has, for all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if you are willing to accept it, he is Elijah who is to come. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. But to what I shall compare this generation? It is like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling to their playmates. We played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang in a dirge. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. For John came, neither eating nor drinking, and they say, 'He has a demon.' The Son of Man came, eating and drinking, and they say, 'Look at him, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' Yet wisdom is justified by her deeds." And you know what's scary about this too? Everyone's always, if God just showed, often proven that that's just not the case. People who don't believe oftentimes don't want to believe, honestly. Like, not even trying to be offensive. I actually had a friend that I used to game with, and he actually appreciated the fact when we were talking to about it. He actually even mentioned too. He's like, "No, I actually appreciate it because I like to share the gospel." But he's like, "I never felt pressured by you or anything." And we were talking about it, and he kept bringing up evidence, evidence, evidence. Like, I don't think there's any proof. And I kind of got to a point because I don't feel like he was, really heeding a lot of what we were talking about. I'm like, to be honest with you, and I'm just getting this impression. I don't mean it insultingly. Even if God, came down to earth, you know what I mean, and like gave you absolute proof, shot lightning out of his hands, I'm like, I don't think the issue is evidence. I still don't think you would believe. And he stopped for a second, and he kind of thought to himself, and he's like, you know what, you're right. He's like, I still wouldn't follow him. And that oftentimes is evidence that there's another issue going on that you always want to kind of look further into. But what's scary though is thinking to end times and how many people are going to do this. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. Like, somebody of God came, they claimed he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard. But this is also showing this dichotomy. John came proclaiming the way for Jesus Christ, right? And he was a man of God, and Jesus Christ came, right? So two came of God, right? He came not drinking or eating, and they said he has a demon. And then the other came eating and drinking, and they say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard. It's showing the hypocrisy between the two. Like, you can't, it's like one of those you can't win. You know what I mean? When it comes to this type of thing. Wisdom is justified by her deed. You know what I mean? Like, kind of going into this. And it's scary because if you think about end times when Jesus comes back, it mentions that, the Antichrist is going to convince, the beast is going to convince a ton of people by, false, like, signs, and miracles and stuff like that. He's going to be able to do some stuff. And it scares me because so many people are just like, nah, I'd never, Oh, I'd never follow that. But it's like, I feel like there's so many people who will, that happened with COVID, a lot of people kind of just caving into certain things or certain mindsets that kind of shock you that you didn't think they would, I don't know if any of you guys get this, but I know some people that I really feel like, if the beast came, and they're like, you can't, how it says, if you don't get the mark and you don't worship him, you can't buy food, right? Or sell or do anything. There are a lot of people that I could easily see, with how they kind of act in certain ways. Being like, well, God will understand because I die if I don't. Like, I have to feed my kid. And it's scary, man. It really is. But yeah, that's the kind of thing about end times. It worries me and like really brings me to want to pray, more and more and more for those people. Because I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to give into that. Woe to unrepentant cities. Then he began to denounce the cities where most of his mighty works had been done, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin. Woe to you, Bethsaida. For the mighty works done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon. They would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it'll be more bearable on that day of judgment for Tyre and Sidon than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? You will be brought down to Hades. For if the mighty works done in you had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I tell you that it will be more tolerable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom than for you. At that time Jesus declared, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and the earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. And no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Man, that's something that I struggle with, man. Honestly, by grace alone, Jesus really takes care of all of our sins. All of us fall short. Like, without Jesus Christ, none of us make it. But it's so difficult because when you're saved by the Spirit and saved by Christ, you go through a process of sanctification. So basically, the Holy Spirit convicts you and molds you over time, right? But you never make it. Like, you never get to that point. Like, until we see Christ, we won't be like him, right? So in this life, we're never going to like achieve like we are perfectly Christ-like. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen until we're actually there, you know, and see him. But it can really come with this feeling of condemnation. You know what I mean? Of feeling like a hypocrite. You know I still sin like daily. You know what I mean? And there's so many times where I just kind of get consumed in it. But he's calling us here and says to take his yoke upon us and to learn from him. And if you think about it too, and it even mentions too, and I love this, for I am gentle and lowly in heart. You know, Jesus wasn't proud. You know what I mean? He wasn't putting himself above everybody else, even though he's God of the universe and he deserves it. You know, he told Peter like he has to wash your feet, which was only a servant, like a slave's job in that time. You know what I mean? Understanding like how lowly he really put himself. So really teach it. And this is speaking to me too, by the way. Like, I'm not just saying this, but this is something that I'm like processing and working on myself like currently. Is to be gentle and lowly in heart. Like humbling yourself. It's not thinking. It's like that. What was that writer? It's everyone knows about it. You're probably screaming it. And I'm I'm not thinking about his name right now. But, you know, talking about, you know, being selfless or something like that is, you know, it's not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less, you know, thinking of others more. Being gentle and lowly in heart is about humility, not thinking less of you. And then taking Jesus's burden, because that's what he did on the cross. And then Scroll asks, how long do the Sunday streams last? I'm not against this. I'm just curious. So I've been doing one chapter actually pretty much every stream so far. And then we do discussion. I didn't find a video for this one, but sometimes we'll watch a video afterwards. So I've literally got this paragraph already. You know what I mean? That's kind of it. We're just doing Matthew 11, and then we're just going to have discussion pretty much. But, and with what I was saying with that, though, that's something that, yeah, or actually, no, we are done. Actually, this is the last thing that we did, so we're basically just discussing now. But, talking about that and, like, learning to take, you know, Jesus's burden instead of our own is so tough. Like, you know, our ego, our pride, like, you know, we want to pay for it, but we really can't. You know what I mean? Like, hell is how we would pay for it. Like, we can't, you know, none of us make it, so it's tough. But at my church, the first Sunday, when we take, you know, the bread and the wine in remembrance of, you know, Jesus' you know, the final Passover or whatever. My brain is not working. But you guys know what I'm taking, what I'm talking about. And when I did that, it was interesting. The message really hit me today, and that really hit me. But when I dipped, you know, the bread in the wine, some of it actually dripped off. And as I was partaking, it really made me think, like, Jesus's blood is on my hands. You know, it is our sin. It's my sin, you know what I mean, and why he had to go to the cross. But it fit really well with this. Jesus's blood is on my hands, but it is Jesus's blood that washes away my sin. So in the same way that I need to be humble and understand that, you know, yes, I deserve hell, right? And it's by God's grace that I don't get it. It's that same, you know, blood that, you know, that was caused by my sin, but at the same time, it's the same thing, you know, Jesus' blood that saves me, you know, and that really washes us clean. It's this interesting understanding, like this dynamic of understanding that it's not this evil thinking badly about yourself, but it's this humility and understanding, you know what I mean, that where you're coming from and the grace of God, you know what I mean, at the same time. I don't know, it just really hit me, honestly, and it's really been helping me personally. I kind of wanted to share that. Scroll said, the only problem I have, I lose focus easy, so I have no idea what's happening anymore. Like, I don't understand, but I never have the confidence to ask to repeat themselves. So I want to encourage you. Honestly, I do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to share something. There's this thing called the Daily Audio Bible, and it is literally that. This awesome dude literally reads from the Bible every single day, and if you do it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you'll go through the entire Bible. It's like 15 minutes and then 5 minutes of prayer, and then some people, you know, giving their prayers and stuff like that, talking about their personal stuff. And I'll play it in my car because I have trouble reading the Bible. I have trouble paying attention, exactly like you're saying. And guess what? I was actually just talking with my friend from church about this. I was making fun of myself because I'm like, dude, because he couldn't pay attention during church. He said he rewatches the recording afterwards because he can't pay attention either. And I'll listen to these things, and it'll be 2 seconds in reading, yes, Father, for such was your grace, gracious will, all the things have, and what if I was talking to him about this? And he was talking about that thing on stream and da 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 da. And that was actually really cool. Pay attention. And I have to do that. Pay attention, Christian. Pay attention. Every 5 seconds. So I want to encourage you a little bit. A lot of us relate to you, man, for sure. And something I want to say is that I try, and this is what I want our community to be, is, patient and kind. That I'm not, if you guys have thoughts and you're like, hey, hear me out, or I don't know how to word this. I say this with people all the time too, who are like, I don't know how to word it, and they just can't say it. I'm like, just say it, and I'm not gonna hold it against you. If you're like, hey, I need to reword it or whatever, I'm not gonna hold it against you, right? Or if you have questions or whatever, I'm not gonna get mad. You're fine. If it's like every 2 seconds, like repeat again and again. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, but I don't think that's something too much to worry about, because I struggle with that a lot. Everyone I talked to today agreed with me pretty much, and they struggle with that. So hopefully that's encouraging to you, man. Because yeah, definitely, like, having the attention, like, to pay attention with these. That's why I'm keeping it to a chapter and trying to focus more on, we do a chapter, we discuss a lot of parts of it, right? And then we can do videos and stuff like that. Or if you guys want to talk, share stories, that's kind of the focus, like a lot of the focus here. That way we're still making our way through the Bible, but it's not too much to where people kind of get lost. But I hope that's encouraging to you, man. That we're all kind of in the same boat. That's probably the biggest lesson for me. I'll read your other message in a second. I just wanted to say hi again, dude. I haven't seen you in a minute. How have you been? And he just said, I was thinking today about my past mistakes. People I heard, and someone got up in church and talked about all the things in her life that she was grateful for, and that was it. That's probably the biggest lesson for you. I was thinking about that at church too, man. Like I said earlier, like, I'm practicing this now because I don't, like, we almost all of us have a pride issue. Like, even if we're pretty good about it, there's still there's still that element of it in it, right? And I've been focusing on that. C.S. Lewis, that's it. His quote of, it's not about thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And I've been focusing on that. We had the pastor today, and he was talking about what was it? I think it was First Kings. It was like First Kings. I think it was First Kings 13, like most of 13. Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and those two stories that were pretty tough. And the entire time I'm always thinking, because I want it to be biblically sound. There are a lot of churches that get like a little too crazy, a little too far off. And I'm like, he's doing pretty good, okay, let me just be careful and watch this. And I'm like, I got to really think, let's focus on his position, like, from what he's trying to explain. Let's not nitpick so much, you know what I mean? Like, let's focus on the person I'm talking to. Like, stop worrying so much about, like, I can pay attention and make sure it's biblically sound for me, but it's like, he's done a lot more studying. He knows a lot more than I do. Let's humble myself and let's focus on him, because really I try to be, patient with people. I think I'm good on the whole pride thing, but at the same time, even though I might not be the worst at it, I'm oftentimes like thinking about how things are affecting me without realizing it, and never really focusing just on the people I'm talking to, and like trying to take myself out of it for a bit. It makes it tough. I was struggling with a friend, actually. We were messaging, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like, he did something. He was kind of like rude about something, and it's something that he had been doing recently. So I kind of like repeated the phrase back to him again a little bit. Just I was kind of trying to show him, like, hey, like, look, like, this is what you're saying is kind of rude. And then he kind of like went off on me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you're being a hypocrite. You're mad at me for doing the same thing you just did. And then he was like trying to gaslight, like, no, you're the only one doing it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, the entire time I wanted to be like, hey, I'm sorry, afterwards, if I, came across rude or offended you, I probably didn't do it right. But the entire time I was, thinking about messaging him that, I'm thinking, but he's going to think he was right about the entire thing. Or he's going to, you know what I mean? He's going to maybe keep, responding in a certain way, or he's going to keep going down this route that I'm not a fan of. And I'm like, I'm still focusing on me. Like, having boundaries is a good and healthy thing, right? So I'm still waiting to try to find like the right and appropriate way to go about it. But I'm like, look how worried I am about me in this, when the conviction is, I could have handled it better and I need to, you know what I mean? I want to apologize for that. So that's tough. But even in that scenario where you're like, oh, you're just holding boundaries, which is correct, I'm still so focused on myself. You know what I mean? Whereas I just need to practice and learn to, focus on the other person, to focus on their needs, their actual needs, and less on just my wants, for sure. But yeah, that was Matthew 11. I still think Matthew 7 and 8 is probably some of my favorite verses out of what we've done so far. It just has so much, but a lot of these really speak to me, to be honest. And like learning to take on Jesus's yoke is so hard because I struggle and I want to take the burden on myself, but I can't. If I want to, that's what I have to keep reminding myself when I try to like condemn myself, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I deserve such and such. And I try to like punish myself. I get really harsh with myself. But then I think to myself, the only true like punishment, like the wages for sin is death. My punishment, I deserve to go to hell. So if I want to pay it myself, that's where I'd have to go. But Jesus paid my debt already on the cross. I can't pay it myself, so I need to stop trying. What I need to do is take the conviction that the Holy Spirit gives me, you know what I mean, and work on being better. And it's tough because I feel so hypocritical at times, but yeah, it's a tough thing to learn, man, but that's where we gotta be. So that is gonna be it from me on this chapter, pretty much. Like I said, we don't have a video for today, but that's still really good. And I like how that ended up just conveniently tying into some stuff I went to today, you know what I mean? This is stuff I wanted to share, so I'm pretty happy about that. But what about you guys? You guys have any questions, thoughts, or stories you want to share? If not, we'll go ahead and call it. But I always like hearing from you guys. And Jim Green, I definitely appreciate you sharing, man, for sure. You guys sharing stuff really does help me, honestly. And we have people sharing stuff in Discord. We have a Bible Thoughts section. And we can add more if you guys have specific topics you want to talk about. But I really do try to read everything, and I really do appreciate you guys being involved. That's really what all this is about, is creating a community where we can, share the gospel and be patient and communicate with others without doing what I think most of the world does, you know what I mean? Which is being impatient, jumping to assumptions. If you disagree with my thoughts, then you must believe the opposite extreme, which is ridiculous. I want to create a community in an area where, somebody can come in the stream. I literally had one of our earliest videos, believe it or not. Literally, somebody only commented, boo Christianity, boo throw shoe. You know what I mean? Like just for no, you know what I mean? Whatever. And I want to be able to create a community where it's like we can accept those people and then ask them like, hey, well, why are you dealing with that? Or like, why do you think that, instead of just getting angry back, that's my goal with it all, for sure. Jim Green said, oh, I should join Discord, so I know before you start some things and can decide if I want to watch them. Yeah, I just added a role feature, so you can actually react. If you join, there's a live notification section. If you react to it, I'll add you to it, and you'll get a notification every time we go live. This is going to be good. And then we also started on Twitch as well. We got a ton of streams on Twitch, actually. So that'd be really cool. I'd like to hear from you more, man. Absolutely. Let's see. Scroll said, I'm good. I don't really like talking about me, not yet at least. There's absolutely no pressure, dude. I just want to be encouraging for the sake of being encouraging. I don't want you to feel bad about, hey, I don't want to ask you to repeat yourself. I don't want to ask this, that, whatever. I want to do my best to make sure, you're comfortable and, you understand that, I'm here to talk with you guys. You know what I mean? We're here to have, a good, solid community, hopefully like a good supportive community in the good ways. And you never have to share if you don't want to. I would love to. I would love to hear from you. You know what I mean? Obviously, Discord would be a little more private if you prefer that, but whatever you're comfortable with, man, for sure. But I'm going to try to do these weekly, so if you ever want to, or if you'd rather Discord, like I said, so it's more private, go for it, Whichever's more comfortable. But either way, I love to hear from you guys. So. But for this stream, I really appreciate everybody who joins. I actually really enjoyed this Bible reading. I'm going to see about next week, depending on the topic and what the next chapter is going to be covering. maybe finding another video on it. I really enjoyed doing that and kind of analyzing that. The last time was pretty good. That YouTube thing that I mentioned on our last one, I do have their link in the description. I'm pretty sure. If not, I'll go double check that. But they're pretty good. I was pretty surprised for it. So, but like I said, that's gonna be it from me. I hope you guys have a blessed day and take it easy. See y'all tomorrow for Hollow Knight. God bless.